Welcome back to Watch Me Edit with Tirza M.M. Hawkins. And I am working on Chasing Cyan. We're on chapter 2 so chapter 1 really felt to me like it was a dream. That's honestly what I felt. I haven't read further. But yeah, right here I see the word sleep. So we're on chapter 2. Let's see about tackling this. I've set this to reviewing. Okay. My body dropped suddenly, as if falling from a great height. I sat up, back stiff, heart racing, gasping for air. You know, sometimes Grammarly, which I kind of want to turn it off so it doesn't annoy me. What do you want to do? I want to turn you off for right now. Ugh. Hey, settings. Turn off for 1 hour. There we go. It's kind of funny because Grammarly will give you some suggestions that might be correct, but don't always serve a fiction story. So that's why I am more likely to use a spell checker over Grammarly a lot. It does have some good suggestions. It'll, now I only use the pro, or the free version, because I tried the pro for like a week and didn't like it because it felt much more like it was for nonfiction work. It wanted everything to be a lot more professional than you would want for a fiction novel. So it sounded like it was helpful for things like documents, but not necessarily for fiction work. Okay. I sat up, back stiff, heart racing, gasping for air. Aching knots in my muscles coupled with pins and needles in my fingers and toes. We all know what that feels like, so that's a good way to bring us into this character's body here. And people claim it's impossible to feel things in your sleep. Got a little snark there from the character that kind of reminds me of the author, and I can say that because I know her. It was kind of funny when I posted the first video of the chapter 1 edit. She was teasing me about all of the comments and suggestions I had left. And was like, why don't you like my writing? But she knew I was going to mark it up a lot. Anyway. Cold sweat glued my lacy nightie to my trembling body. A stark reminder that I'd been soaked in the dream. Wiggling my appendages in an attempt to wake them, I tried to convince myself everything would be okay. It was only a dream. Nightmare, technically, but not real. So that kind of reads to me like inner dialogue, but she doesn't have it italicized. Tugging my blanket tight against my bosom, I forced myself to take 3 deep, calming breaths. With each inhale, my stomach unclenched a tiny bit. It's just nerves, Cyan. That damn wolf. Him and Sam. Blame them. Dread's icy fingers crawled up my spine with the thought of the constable. What a despicable waste of flesh, that man. He intended to marry me whether I agreed or not. The entire village knew of his determination, and none made an effort to dissuade them. So this is where I want to know how this makes her feel. Like, does she feel like an outcast? Does she dream of someone standing up for her? What goes through her head when she thinks about this? Filtered light peeked through a small opening in the middle of my turquoise curtains. At least I'd slept through the night, even if it was a fitful sleep at best. In the 10 years since my parents died, I'd been unable to rest the night before my birthday. Memories of that horrific day haunted me at the worst moments, but the fact that they died trying to surprise me with a pony for my 8th birthday. I kind of want a little bit of clarification. So I would assume this is the night before her birthday. Like, at least I'd slept through the night. This night. The one that haunts me each year. Just something like that to give it a little bit of clarification. I just think something that would help it flow a little bit better. That way we're not guessing. We don't want to leave our readers guessing. Okay, so in the 10 years since my parents died, and this was for the 8th birthday, so I'm assuming she's turning 18 today now, is what I would assume there. The blame had been a heavy burden to carry back then, but now it was a numbing reminder that I had little choice in what my future held. So there's times when to repeat and times when not. And I kind of feel like the emphasis of the now here could be really good, and then we can contract the it was. So that just reads better to me, kind of flows a bit more easily and isn't as jarring from sentence to sentence. But again, it'll be up to the author to see what she wants to do with it. Three knocks on my bedroom door were followed by my grandmother's sweet voice. Cyan, are you up? Yes, ma'am. Are you decent? Privacy was something I'd learned as a preteen. Not all girls in my village were given the same respect, but Big Mama believed in boundaries and respect going both ways. So I always saw Mama with 2 M's. I'm not going to look it up, but so that is something that could be based on where different people live. So that's something I might highlight. So I just glanced ahead a little bit. I kind of want a little bit of a reaction, a response to the grandma. Oh, I have too many ends there. It's like it looks wrong. It's telling me it's wrong. So how does she make Cyan feel? Because we did have the grandmother's sweet voice, but, you know, there's sometimes that evil people can have sweet voices too. So I just want a response, like, set us up for how we're supposed to feel about the grandmother there. So big mama believed in boundaries and respect going both ways. Not yet. I just woke. Does it say what she's wearing? Okay, a lacy nightie. Wow, she's going lacy for a teenager, huh? 18-year-old. Breakfast is almost ready. I know you don't care to hear it, but happy birthday. I made your favorite. As her muffled footsteps faded, I wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes and begrudgingly slid out from under my warm covers. So, here's a thought, just because I have woken up drenched in sweat before. So, are the covers really warm? If she and they are all wet, how about the air against her sweaty body as she gets up? So that is one thing. Is when you wake up drenched in sweat, you're cold. So I never considered my covers warm because they were wet and I was wet, and then you get out of bed and you're freezing cold. So I would think that she would be hurrying to dry off and get warm. No matter how much today would be lonesome, I couldn't turn down fried eggs with bacon and a side of biscuits and gravy. So that must be her favorite. It wouldn't be as good cold. Maybe like... Okay, so something about hurrying then. I almost want to be picky and be like something about how a grandma like always knows what she likes most with the fried eggs and bacon, but that it's just being picky. Plus, I needed coffee to survive the day. I'd only been drinking it for 2 years and already I was completely addicted. I don't know. I feel like so My first thought with coffee and coffee drinkers is that you want coffee to help you wake up, especially after that sleep. So again, there's just a lot more developmentally going on here. I feel like that just needs to be expounded, that I'm not finding as much that I want to line edit. So I feel like sometimes I just make things up. But it's just a lot of rushed details, I feel like, here. So that's where, like, a lot of the things that I've put in just help to slow them down. Because if you have, like, a lot of details like this, it makes it more difficult for the reader to follow, because you're just jumping from one topic to the next. See, again, I want some reference to being dry, because she woke up sweaty. Like, if your clothes are sticking to your body when you wake up, you want to dry off. And I don't mind using multiple ands here, just because I like the way that flows. But you could also, do it with commas. Once I was dry and dressed and sitting at the table, inhaling the aroma of freshly baked bread and steaming coffee. It's biscuits, though. Which are technically a quick bread. My nerves finally began to settle. See, so how about a little bit of this? I think just a little bit of that nervousness while she's dressing, because we didn't have any of it for several paragraphs. It was just completely gone, and we're talking about a birthday breakfast. So I think keeping that in there we'll just say we didn't have any nerves for several paragraphs. So keep us nervous and on edge. Until the character starts to calm down. I might even, talk about her cupping the warm mug before the sip, too. Like, that's always a soothing moment when it comes to the first sip of morning coffee. I feel like that's what actually makes you settle down, is like you're holding that warm cup and until it's like too hot to handle. And then you start to calm. You've got that body touch and then that smell. The first hot sip scalded my tongue, but it didn't prevent me from taking another before thanking my grandmother for the meal. So 3 things is the limit here for your sentences. This is almost like a lot in a sentence, but nothing is suspenseful, so you can get away with having a little bit more in a sentence. Only the best for my favorite girl, she said, as she placed a heaping plate in front of me. Eat up. You're going to need a full gut to deal with Sam today. Wow. You know he plans to propose this evening just as he did on your mother's 18th. Persistent, that one. I don't know that I would want a full gut to deal with Sam. But it is comfort food. I know. Can't you stop it? I almost want like a fork waving in the air. You know? So, could you pick up her fork here and wave it in the air? Maybe stab something on her plate violently with it. She just seems like a snarky character. It's something I would just see her doing. You know I can't. All you have to do is say no. All right. What does grandmother look like here? Like, we need some expression. Is her face pained? Maybe eyebrows narrowed with pain? Just something like that to, like, we need something to tell us what grandmother thinks about this. It won't be enough, I whined and gulped down as much of the burning liquid my mouth could handle. I'm adding an as there. As much of the burning liquid as my mouth could handle. As much of the burning liquid my mouth could handle. And I feel like it could almost go either way, but don't worry about that now, dear. Does grandmother pat her hand here? Worrying won't change the situation. All it's good for is causing wrinkles. I finished her sentence, earning a polite smile. Good girl. Yeah, we had that smile. I was like, if she says good girl, we need to just smile, but it is there. Now handle your chores so we can be on time for your coming of age celebration. I feel like, is this when they both get up from the table? Just something about that. Everyone in our village was celebrated at birth and then again when they reached the age of maturity. Men became men at 16 and were taken on an overnight hunt. Women were celebrated at 18, the year they were allowed to marry. Though it didn't make any sense. Boys of 20 were still boys. They had the intellectual maturity of a garden gnome until 25, at least, maybe 50, or later. But they had the opportunity to select a woman of 18 or more anytime after their 16th birthday. I would never understand politics. I don't understand. The of 20 kind of threw me off. Like, why are we talking about 20? I thought maybe that's when they had to wait to get married. But if they're allowed to marry at 16, Then this of 20 doesn't make sense to me. It says right here, though it didn't make any sense. So I think it would be better if it just said, boys were still boys. They had the intellectual maturity of a garden gnome until 25, at least. Maybe 50 or later. That way then this 16th birthday makes sense. It says, I would never understand politics. I almost feel like I'm just going to be a little extra here. Use against, and I spelled screeched wrong. I would never understand politics. The chair voiced my unspoken sentiment as it screeched against the wooden floor as I stood up. Alright, that was a short chapter. I felt like there was just a lot more that developmentally needed to be done than actual line edits. We had some good descriptions and details that were there. Some good visceral responses. There wasn't a lot of visual. That is one thing that could have been added. I'm just going to make a little note. So there wasn't a lot of visual details in this chapter. I think it would read better if you added some. So yeah. All right. That was chapter 2 of Chasing Cyan. Thanks for coming back and watching more. And we will tackle chapter 3 here soon.